On January 15, 1974, 4 members of the Otero family were strangled to death in their home in Wichita, Kansas. The killer left with a watch and a radio. Strangulation and souvenir taking would become part of his pattern of criminal behavior. Semen was found at the scene, and it was later discovered that he had gotten sexual pleasure from the killing. The 15-year-old son of the Otero family, Charlie, came home later that day, only to discover the dead bodies of his loved ones. This is the story of Dennis Rader, or better known as BTK. Dennis Rader is an American serial killer who terrorized the Wichita, Kansas area from 1974 to 1991. He became known as the BTK killer because he would bind, torture, and kill his victims. He lived a double life between a devoted family and company man and a brutal murderer. Rader brutally murdered 10 people and taunted the authorities through bold correspondence with local news outlets. Due to his tendency to leave clues at the crime scene, his alter ego resurfaced in 2004, leading to his arrest. The following year, he pled guilty to the murders and is now serving 10 life sentences. Dennis Lynn Rader was born on March 9, 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Out of William and Dorothea Rader's 4 children, he was the oldest. On the outside, his childhood seemed normal. He was a happy kid and enjoying his life. But in reality, this was just a mask to hide his disturbing behavior of hanging stray animals. Animal cruelty is a common behavior among killers. Special Agent Alan Brantley of the FBI believes that some offenders kill animals as a rehearsal for killing human victims. In the mid-60s, Rader dropped out of college and joined the U.S. Air Force. After returning to Wichita, he worked at an outdoor supply company for about a year. He then worked as an employee of ADT Security Services in 1974. In 1971, he married Paula Deitz. The couple had their first child, Brian, in 1975, and their second child, Carrie, in 1978. Carrie ended up writing a book in 2019 titled A Serial Killer's Daughter, My Story of Hope, Love, and Overcoming, in which she discussed how she learned about her father's criminal acts and how she overcame the horror associated with them. Brian, however, chose to stay out of the public eye. A few months after the Otero family murders, Rader struck again. On April 4, 1974, he waited in the apartment of 21-year-old Catherine Bright before stabbing and strangling her when she returned home. He had also shot her brother, Kevin, twice, though he survived. Kevin described Rader as an average-sized guy, bushy mustache, and psychotic eyes. In October of 1974, a letter written by Rader was discovered in a public library book, in which he took responsibility for killing the Oteros. The note gave the authorities some ideas as to who they were dealing with, and local newspapers began covering the story. Rader wrote, "It's hard to control myself. You probably call me psychotic with sexual perversion hang-up." He claimed that he would strike again, noting, "The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them. BTK." The initials stuck, and the murderer became known as the BTK killer. His next known murders happened in 1977. That March, Shirley Vian was tied up and strangled after Rader locked her children in the bathroom. In December, he strangled Nancy Fox in her home and then called the police to report the homicide. In January of 1978, shortly after the murder of Nancy Fox, Rader sent a poem to a local newspaper about the Vian killing. A letter was sent several weeks after the poem to a local television station, stating that he was responsible for killing Vian, Fox, and another unknown victim. He also made references to other notorious killers, including Ted Bundy and David, son of Sam Berkowitz. Despite some evidence being left at the scenes and multiple hints as to who he was, Rader was able to keep his murderous life away from his wife. In 1979, he graduated from Wichita State University with a degree in Administration of Justice, and was still able to taunt the authorities, keeping them thinking that he would strike again. In April of '79, Rader had left a letter in an elderly woman's home, letting her know that BTK had been there. He snuck in and waited for her arrival, but ended up leaving before she returned home. In a hope to catch him, the police released an audio recording of his phone call to the police in 1977, hoping that someone would recognize his voice. On April 27, 1985, Rader killed his neighbor, Maureen Hedge, after several years without a known crime. Her body was discovered a few days later on the side of the road. The following year, he killed Vicki Wiegler in her home. On January 19, 1991, his final victim, Dolores Davis, was taken from her home. Over the next few years, Rader started focusing more on his family and work life rather than his murderous run. In the late 1980s, he left his job at ADT and started working for the Wichita suburb of Park City as a compliance supervisor. Rader took his new job seriously, measuring the height of people's lawns and chasing away stray animals with a tranquilizer gun. He was also a Boy Scout troop leader and president of his church council. In 2004, BTK resurfaced with the marking of the 30th anniversary of the Otero murders. Rader has sent authorities and local news outlets several letters filled with things related to his crimes, along with pictures, a word puzzle, and an outline for the BTK story. He also left packages with clues, including a computer disk that ended up leading the authorities to Rader's church. Investigators noticed his Jeep on the security tapes of the package drop-off areas and secured their case by getting a DNA sample from Rader's daughter. On February 25, 2005, Rader was arrested and was later charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. Everyone was stunned, unable to believe that the man they knew and trusted was actually the serial killer that had haunted the area for so long. On June 27, 2005, Rader pleaded guilty to all the charges. As a part of his plea, he gave the horrifying details of his crimes in court. Many people observed that he described the gruesome events without any emotion. Because he committed his crimes before the state's 1994 reinstatement of the death penalty, Rader was sent to El Dorado Correctional Facility to serve his 10 life sentences.